morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all our Sip&Talkers out there. Man, the weather is just, like, absolutely gorgeous today.
It really is, yeah. So nice.
I am fully caffeinated. We are ready to roll. Welcome back to Sip&Talk.
Cheers to that. I'm so pumped for today's show. But before we get into the heavy stuff, I just have to tell you about our buddy Mickey.
Oh, boy. What did he get himself into this time?
Well, you know, he just posted that new video on his channel, right?
Yeah, the travel vlog one.
Exactly. The one analyzing Taiwanese attitudes toward China. Super balanced, very neutral analysis.
Right.
But of course, predictably, the comment section got absolutely swarmed by those little pink nationalist internet trolls. Just thousands of them, practically overnight.
Wow. I mean, totally expected, honestly. When you try to use, like, calm logic to analyze a highly emotional issue, the side that lacks a real argument always resorts to their natural defense mechanism.
Exactly. They just drag the conversation down to emotional venting and personal attacks.
Yeah, it's wild. So how did he handle it? Did he try to, like, debate them?
Not at all. He was incredibly chill about it. He didn't argue. He didn't fight back. He just quietly, systematically deleted the comments.
Oh, that is the way to do it.
Right. He said the video itself wasn't aggressive, so why entertain people who were just throwing labels around?
That is exactly how you handle it. It's just a really mature philosophy of community management because the core goal of these extreme commenters isn't to actually communicate.
No.
They just want to extract your attention. They want to shift their anger onto you. If you reply, even to correct them, you're just giving them a stage.
Yep. Deleting them is just being responsible to your actual real audience.
Exactly. It's like if someone walks into your living room and throws trash on the floor, you don't stand there and scream at the trash.
Right. You just sweep it into the garbage.
You just sweep it up. And this is exactly what we talked about back on episode 474 about fighting trolls. You know, don't feed the trolls, people.
Seriously, if you haven't listened to that one, go search for troll in our feed. It'll turn you into an absolute Zen master of the internet.
It really will. But, you know, that specific dynamic, people completely abandoning logic to just throw emotional grenades, that is exactly what happens every single time we as a society try to talk about our main topic today.
Yeah. We are getting into some heavy breaking news.
We are. The surveillance footage that was just released from the early August 2026 in-and-out shooting in Twin Falls, Idaho.
And it is heavy. It's shaking a lot of people up right now.
It is, which is why today we have a very specific mission for this conversation. We are going to peel back the layers of our uniquely American gun violence loop.
Right.
We really want to figure out exactly why our system is structurally trapped, how foreign adversaries weaponize our political gridlock, and, you know, what a realistic, data-driven way out actually looks like.
Because when you watch that Idaho footage, it is terrifying. The suddenness of it is just, it's what gets you. 3 dead, 7 injured.
Yeah, just awful.
But watching that footage, you also see this incredibly uniquely American phenomenon unfold in real time. The shooter opens fire, but almost instantly, multiple armed civilians.
Right, and that off-duty state trooper.
Exactly, a trooper who just happened to be eating a burger. They draw their own weapons and return fire. And then, amidst all that absolute chaos, there's this one unarmed man.
Oh, I saw that.
He throws his hands up in the air, steps directly forward to negotiate with the shooter, and he literally buys crucial escape time for a whole crowd of people out the back door.
It's crazy.
It is the duality of our culture on full display. You know, extreme violent tragedy met instantly by this wild civilian heroism.
Okay, but I have to push back a little on romanticizing that heroism, though.
Fair enough. Go ahead.
Yes, the police chief came out and explicitly confirmed that those armed citizens and the off-duty cops saved lives, no question. They are absolute heroes.
Right, they really are.
But to me, this just highlights our tragic loop. We have extreme violence, followed by this Wild West style of civilian self-rescue, followed by a ton of advocacy, you know, political gridlock in Washington, and then we just wait for another shooting.
It is a devastating cycle. And that loop is exactly why I get asked the same question by my foreign friends all the time.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
They look at us and they ask, why can't you Americans just ban guns? Like, is a piece of metal more important than human life?
And that is the million-dollar question. But it's totally an outsider's perspective.
Oh, absolutely.
When you actually look at our laws, our system, our history, you realize why we can't just, like, flip a switch and ban them. It's a massive structural trap, and it really exists on 3 separate layers.
Let's unpack those layers for the Sip and Talkers, because it's so much more complicated than Washington just, you know, refusing to pass a law.
Right.
The first layer is deeply constitutional and cultural. In our system, the Second Amendment isn't viewed as some privilege handed down by the government.
No, not at all.
It is rooted in our founders' fundamental distrust of government authority. It's the right to bear arms to protect yourself and your property. And our Supreme Court has cemented this. In landmark cases like Heller and Bruin, they ruled that this is an individual fundamental right. So any sweeping ban is immediately going to be struck down as unconstitutional. It's just baked into our national DNA.
Right. You can't just legislate away a founding philosophy. But then there's the second layer, which is just the sheer math of it all.
The math is terrifying.
It is staggering. We have over 400 million civilian-owned guns in the U.S. That is roughly 120 guns for every 100 people.
We literally have more guns than human beings.
Exactly. And that creates a massive societal prisoner's dilemma.
Yes, and let's really think about how that prisoner's dilemma works in practice. Imagine you're a law-abiding citizen in a neighborhood where crime is, ticking up.
Okay, yeah.
Because there are 400 million guns out there. You know the black market is flooded. You know the criminals will always have access to them.
Right, they aren't going to turn theirs in.
Exactly. So you feel like you must buy a gun to defend your family, otherwise you're just a sitting duck. We are trapped in this logic where the overwhelming supply forces good, peaceful people to arm themselves purely out of fear. It's a defensive arms race within our own borders.
Which brings us to the third layer, the political gridlock. In Washington, you have this perpetual stalemate.
Oh, totally.
You have Republicans and the NRA often echoing Trump, insisting that the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun.
Right.
And on the other side, Democrats are pushing for strict bans on assault weapons. The two sides are speaking completely different languages. They aren't even arguing about the same premise.
And here is where the domestic tragedy really bleeds into international geopolitics.
Oh, this part is fascinating.
It really is. Our domestic gridlock doesn't just stay inside our borders. It gets weaponized internationally. If you look at Chinese state media like CCTV or Xinhua, whenever there's a tragedy here, they plaster our shootings all over their front pages.
Every single time.
The headlines always imply the complete collapse of American democracy. They paint this picture that America's just a chaotic, dystopian wasteland.
It's a textbook example of information warfare and narrative framing. And if you break it down with a bit of media literacy, you see exactly how sophisticated their strategy is.
Oh.
First, there's selective focus. They hyper-focus on the carnage, the blood, the panic. But they entirely edit out the resilient parts of the footage.
Exactly. You will never ever see CCTV show the off-duty cop in Idaho drawing his weapon.
Nope.
Or that brave unarmed guy negotiating, or the community mutual aid that happens immediately after. Because if they actually showed our society repairing itself,
right,
or citizens stepping up to protect each other, it completely ruins their failed state narrative.
Precisely. They literally have to edit out the American resilience. And the second tactic is whataboutism, and it is tied directly to regime legitimacy.
How so?
Well, by portraying our democracy as this violent nightmare, they're sending a very specific, calculated psychological message to their own citizens. They're basically saying, look, sacrificing your personal freedom, dealing with heavy surveillance, living under absolute public order, that's an acceptable price to pay. Because the alternative, freedom means getting shot at a burger joint.
Wow. It's psychological inoculation against democracy.
That is exactly what it is.
And they use it as a diplomatic shield, too. Whenever our State Department calls out their human rights abuses, their foreign ministry immediately points to our gun violence.
Every time. It's their trump card.
It's their ultimate trump card to deflect criticism. That they say, how can you lecture us on human rights when your kids aren't safe in schools?
But we have to be smart enough to hold two thoughts in our heads at the same time. Yes, our gun violence is a deeply painful, very real wound in our society. It's a crisis.
Absolutely.
But we cannot allow foreign propaganda to simplify our complex constitutional struggles into a cheap, failed state talking point.
Well said. So that brings us to the reality on the ground. If sweeping bans are politically and constitutionally impossible right now, and the issue is being heavily weaponized against us on the global stage, what are we actually doing? We aren't just sitting on our hands.
No, we aren't. And this brings us to a really crucial compromise that's been gaining serious traction. Red flag laws.
Officially known as Extreme Risk Protection Orders, or ERPOs.
Yes, ERPOs.
This is actually a rare sliver of bipartisan hope in our system. Even in Florida, which is a deeply red state, they passed ERPO legislation after the Parkland shooting.
Which is huge.
It is. And the brilliance of it is the legal framing. It targets dangerous behaviors rather than specific types of guns.
And that distinction is everything. An ERPO allows family members or police to petition a judge to temporarily remove guns from someone who is showing clear, documented signs of being a threat to themselves or others.
Right.
You aren't banning the AR-15. You're pausing access for someone in crisis. And the data we have on this is incredibly promising.
It really is. I was looking at the recent numbers from UC Davis and Columbia University. ERPOs are highly effective at preventing suicides.
Wow.
Which is huge, because suicides actually make up over 60% of our total gun deaths in the U.S.
A lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah. And in Florida, after they implemented their red flag law, their gun homicide rate dropped by 11%. The data literally proves it is actively stopping premeditated mass shootings before they happen.
The numbers are great, but okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Do it.
Because as much as ERPOs save lives, there is a massive constitutional flaw in how they are executed that we absolutely have to talk about.
You're talking about the due process side of things, right?
Exactly. It comes down to what the courts call ex parte hearings. In a lot of these cases, a judge can issue that confiscation order based on a tip from a family member or a cop.
Right.
And the police will show up at your door at 6 a.m. to confiscate your property before you ever get a chance to step into a courtroom to defend yourself.
Which totally flips the innocent until proven guilty standard on its head.
It does. It's a huge due process issue. I mean, think about it from a civil rights perspective. You are deemed guilty and stripped of a fundamental constitutional right first.
Yeah.
And then you have to spend thousands of dollars to hire a lawyer and go to court weeks later to prove you're sane just to get your property back.
That's rough.
It leaves the system incredibly vulnerable to malicious false reports. Just imagine an angry ex-spouse in a bitter divorce making up a threat to get your guns taken away and ruin your reputation.
That is a very real, very American legal dilemma.
Right.
We are constantly trying to balance the collective safety of the public against the absolute due process rights of the individual.
Which is why this issue is so hard to solve. But I think to really understand why we are stuck, we need to zoom out. We need a global reality check to prove that the piece of metal itself isn't the only variable in this equation.
I completely agree. Let's look at the global data because it completely shatters the simple narrative of, more guns equals more murder.
Okay, let's hear it.
If you pull the latest reports from UNODC and the Small Arms Survey, you see three very distinct categories.
Right.
First, you have the high gun, low murder countries. Think Switzerland, the Czech Republic, and Finland. They have very high civilian gun ownership rates, lots of hunting and civilian defense cultures.
Yeah.
But their homicide rates are incredibly low, somewhere between 0.1 and 1.2 per 100,000 people.
Which is practically non-existent.
Right. Then you have the high gun, high murder category. That's us, the U.S., sitting at around 5.0 per 100,000.
Yeah.
But it's also Latin America and the Caribbean. Places like Ecuador and Jamaica are hitting 40-plus murders per 100,000 because of intense gang and cartel violence.
That's awful.
And finally, the low gun, low murder places. Japan, Singapore, almost zero civilian guns, and their murder rates are under 0.3 per 100,000.
So what does this data actually tell us? The way I see it, it proves that a gun is a lethality multiplier.
Right, a multiplier.
It is not the sole root cause of societal violence. Let's look at Switzerland. They have plenty of guns, but they also have incredibly high social trust, robust social safety nets, universal health care, and low income inequality.
Exactly.
But if a society has severe income inequality, rampant gang violence, and a completely broken mental health net, like we see in certain parts of our country, the gun just multiplies the existing tragedy. It turns a temporary impulse or a street corner fistfight into an absolute massacre.
It really does.
Statistically, a gun is 3 to 5 times more lethal than a knife in a violent encounter.
That multiplier analogy is perfect. It's the gasoline on a fire that's already burning. So how do we put the fire out?
Right.
If we know bans are politically impossible right now,
Yeah.
and the root causes are these massive systemic societal issues, how do we actually stop mass shootings from happening tomorrow?
We have to adopt what security and medical experts call the public health model. It's a defense-in-depth strategy. You don't rely on one magical law to fix everything.
No, you can't.
You build multiple overlapping layers of defense.
And layer one of that defense is source control. We're talking about universal background checks to finally close the private sale loopholes.
Yes, exactly.
But even more importantly, mandatory safe storage laws. This one is huge because it directly addresses the prisoner's dilemma we talked about earlier.
Oh, absolutely.
We need to hold parents criminally liable if they leave a loaded AR-15 unsecured under their bed and their teenager takes it to school. If you own it, you are legally responsible for securing it from bad actors.
Absolutely. You break the cycle by cutting off the easy access. Layer 2 is early warning. Criminologists talk a lot about this concept of leakage.
Leakage.
Yeah. Almost every single mass shooter posts warning signs online, a manifesto, a vague threat, dark photos, days or weeks before they act.
That's so true.
So we need threat assessment teams in every single school district, and we need to heavily push anonymous reporting apps, like the Say Something app, so kids can report that weird post they saw without feeling like a snitch. We have to catch the leakage before it becomes a flood.
I love that framing, catch the leakage. And layer 3 is target hardening, which sounds intense, but it's vital.
Yeah, it is.
We're talking about strictly enforced active shooter protocols for law enforcement. Frankly, this is the painful, horrific lesson we all learned from Uvalde.
Oh, definitely.
Police cannot wait outside a classroom for backup. They have to rush in immediately to neutralize the threat, even at great personal risk.
Because in those situations, seconds literally mean lives.
Exactly. And for civilians, target hardening means widespread stop the bleed training. We need tourniquets in every public space right next to the fire extinguishers and defibrillators.
That makes total sense.
And we need to teach the public how to use them. Because the tragic reality is that so many victims survive the initial impact, but they die from blood loss while waiting for paramedics to secure and clear the scene.
That is just heartbreaking, and I'd add a final crucial layer to this defense-in-depth model. Media blackouts. The no notoriety rule.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. We have to stop publishing the names, the faces, and the manifestos of these shooters.
Exactly.
Stop turning them into anti-heroes in the nightly news.
Yeah.
When we plaster their faces everywhere, we are giving them exactly what they want. Cut off the oxygen, and you stop inspiring the next wave of copycats.
And think about the geopolitics of it.
Right. By refusing to make a spectacle of the tragedy, we directly counter the information warfare tactics used by foreign state media. We stop giving them the B-roll they use to paint us as a failed state.
It is all deeply connected. If we want true public safety, we have to look in the mirror. We have to face our broken societal safety nets, our mental health crisis, and our cultural isolation, rather than just endlessly screaming at each other over the metal tool itself. The gun is the multiplier, but we are the equation.
That is a really powerful way to look at it. But, it leaves you with a lingering question, doesn't it?
It's that.
Well, if a gun is just a lethality multiplier for human impulse, what happens in the very near future when tomorrow's technology multiplies lethality in ways we can't even regulate yet?
Oh, wow.
I'm talking about AI-guided targeting systems or completely untraceable 3D printed swarm drones. We're struggling to regulate 20th century mechanics. What happens when the multiplier goes digital? Think about that for next time.
Man, that is a terrifying, but honestly an entirely necessary thought experiment. And Sip&Talkers, we know this was a really heavy one today.
It was.
But as always, our goal here at Sip&Talk is to look at objective facts and encourage independent, critical thinking. We aren't here to criticize or discriminate against any specific nation, group, or people. We just want to unpack the reality of the complex world we are all living in together.
Exactly. And hey, just to be safe, even though we didn't mention any stock tickers today, we aren't investment advisors anyway, so don't take any financial advice from us. Just putting that out there.
So true. We got to cover our bases. If you enjoyed this conversation and learned something new, please hit that subscribe button for the Sip&Talk podcast. It helps us out so much and keeps these discussions going.
And before we go, do not forget to check out our buddy Mickey's YouTube channel, Mickey to Life, for his latest travel vlog. Aside from the troll situation we talked about earlier, he actually has some wild, amazing stories on there.
Oh my gosh, yes. You guys have to watch his new one. Mickey somehow had this bizarre, totally unexpected intersection with Audrey Hepburn on his latest trip.
Wait, Audrey Hepburn? How is that even mathematically or physically possible?
I am not spoiling it. You have to go watch it to find out what happened.
All right, well, now I'm going to go watch it right now. Thanks for hanging out with us, everyone. We'll catch you in the next discussion.
Stay safe, Sip&Talkers. See you next time.